Hey everyone, Philip-Neri, the performance coach. So this video stems from a few places. Number one is I read a post the other day on Facebook from a former veteran, and it referenced just when you get out of the military, the feeling of being potentially lost a little bit, like you're trying to find your place in, common society and what direction are you going to take. And simultaneously, I had a former Division I athlete, track and field athlete, message me on Instagram, and they were watching one of my videos in regards to making excuses for not moving your life forward, for not making decisions that move your life forward. And they asked some really, really good questions in regards to, what are the tips? What are the tricks? Could it have something to do with your brain? And so I thought about this, both of those, the questions and then the post. I thought about both of them. And I said, and this is a thought I've had for a long time, but I've never actually filmed a video about it. So there's actually a very common element between somebody who was a former elite athlete, someone who served our country, and somebody who actually served time in the penal system. So an athlete, a soldier, and an inmate. There's actually a lot of cross collaboration. Let me explain. So in all three of those environments, there was a lot of structure. There was a lot of rules. There was a lot of demands. Many times you're told where to be, what to do, what to wear. Here are your choices for food, etc., etc. So basically, in some degree, and I'm not judging any one of those three or sharing any personal opinions, etc., etc., but for lack of better terms, the reason people are functioning in those environments so well, and they feel like they're together, they're put together, and they know what to do, and they know why they have a direction, is because of all the structure, all the discipline, and all the rules. So now when somebody comes out of the military, somebody steps down from being an elite athlete, somebody gets out of being incarcerated, now all of a sudden you have this world in front of you that to some degree you were removed from. To some degree you were removed from. Because no longer is that structure there, that discipline, those rules, those expectations, because you have to set forth those on yourself. And so many times that's why people are searching and they're lost. Now, the question the athlete asked me is, could there be something going on in one's brain? Now, I'm obviously not a medical doctor. I'm getting my PhD in performance psychology. So I want to remove, let's say, PTSD. I want to remove depression. I want to remove anxiety in regards to my tips and tricks, right? Because obviously if somebody has something physiological, biological, psychological going on that is of extreme and severe nature, then they need to see somebody more qualified than myself, correct? So, but let's say everybody is, they're healthy, they're feeling good, they're just trying to find their place in what do they do. The reality is the reason they get lost is because the right questions aren't being asked of them. So you could say, well, what is it you like to do? What is it that you're good at doing? What do you see yourself doing? Those questions are all important. They're all important. But one of the biggest things is you got to create a schedule. And you got to create a very rigid schedule. You got to create the tasks. You got to create the checklist. You got to implement that discipline that you're used to move yourself forward. So for example, let's say it is, we'll take finding that career and working out. So for working out, in some of those environments, that was your job. That's what you were getting paid to do, was to train. In another environment, it was how you combated stress, etc., etc. So you build a plan around staying healthy, working out, and then you implement the same discipline that you had in your previous life to following that plan. Same thing about, let's say, finding your career. You got to implement the discipline, create the structure in creating your plan to figure out what is it that you want to do. So here's the tip and the trick. The tip and the trick is really just creating structure. and having discipline and then following through while you're trying to sort through where you're going to go. Now, I know that may not seem tangible. We'll have discipline, have structure. Well, that's why there are guys like me, guys and girls that are performance coaches, because what we do is we say, okay, what were the skill sets you learned? What are the skill sets you're good at? What are the skill sets that you have survived on? Okay, great. Now let's build that structure, build that schedule, and let's channel you down a path to figuring out if this is where you want to go in this world. So, a lot of times, in all of those three facets, athlete, soldier, former inmate, there's just a sense of being lost. And I'm very close to all three parties, just within my own personal life. And I've seen it where they're reaching and they're stretching to try to figure out, where do I fit in here and what do I do? So that's one way a performance coach can help. But like what I can tell you is, what you can take away from this is, if you just sit back, reflect, and just really, really figure out what were the skill sets that you learned from your previous life. What were the skill sets that you learned? And did you adhere to the discipline of implementing those skill sets? If you just start with that, then again, you can build your plan moving forward. But obviously, if you got questions, you want to set up a complimentary consultation, then I'm here to help work through this. So I call this like transitional coaching, right? It's transition because you're trying to transition from one place to another place. And I've coached a lot of people that have wanted to shift careers. So it's not just for the athletes, the soldiers, and the inmates per se, but even if you're thinking about shifting gears, do I go back to school? Do I shift careers? It's all the same thing. It's all transitional coaching, and that's what a performance coach can do. Hope you enjoyed this video. Philip-Neri, the performance coach.